visits, which I do these group visits with the NetBad Business Foundation, and we're also connected to the NetBad Business Foundation. We had meetings with Lusaka Water Company, talking about the Kafui River, bringing water from the Kafui River to supply Lusaka. Lusaka is growing at a hang of a pace, as you people know when you go there, and that's one. It is extremely important to make contact with people like Lusaka Water Company and DWSCO, the Dar es Salaam Water Authority. It's very, very important. Those are key people. Because the tenders are issued, even if it's World Bank funded, the implementing authority agency is the utility. So you have to adopt that approach. Smaller urban areas, it's like the Zanzibar Urban Services Project in Tanzania. There's quite a lot of tension in Zanzibar. As a tourist mecca, its infrastructure is way behind the inflow of tourists. And I know that from direct personal experience. There's quite a lot of attention to supplying water to smaller urban areas. I think it's divided between places like Lusaka and Dar es Salaam, and then to these smaller areas. There is a very interesting program called PEPAM, which is the French acronym for Eau Potable, potable water. It's a program, not a project, and it is supported by just about every one of the main donors that you can think of: African Development Bank, EIB, Agence Française, DFID, Credit Anstalt. They're all funding it, and it's a very big program. And what they did was they chose Senegal as an example for this. Why? Because it's a program in the rural areas to jack up water supply at the water points of supply. Those are called ASUFOs, another French acronym. But basically what they are is they're community villages that now look after their boreholes and wells, and then there's a private company, through the privatization of the company is being weak from France, but they basically report through to Dar es Salaam using mobile telecommunications technology for two reasons. One is for maintenance purposes. The local community is meant to maintain its boreholes and its water supply points. When they can't, then they have a technical team in Dar es Salaam that then goes out to the area and then does the repair work. And the other aspect for the mobile link-up is a company called Manobi that won the contract for that, ICT company. And it's a wonderful example of the application of ICT into different sectors in infrastructure. And the other one is payments, because there's a payment to be made by the rural authorities. Obviously, it's like a kind of tax. And then that payment is made through, and that's what makes it. But obviously, in the beginning, in the initial phases, the donors are putting in the money as the program goes. It's a program that they want to roll out throughout Africa. They've chosen Senegal because of two major reasons. Firstly, Senegal is in the Sahel belt. It has a problem with water, a serious problem with water. It's very dry. The other reason is, despite that problem, it has a huge advantage in that 80% of the country is covered by mobile telecommunications. There's Mccullough Dam. Mccullough is going to become a major focal point because Vale of Brazil has basically taken a shareholding in the Mccullough Corridor Company, development company, which means that coal is going to pass through Mccullough Natural Deepwater Port, and it means that you can see a lot of development happening in Mccullough. It's clear. Beira is too limited. There are too many problems with Beira. And that means rail and all kinds of things are going to happen, but also it's interesting to see that the construction of the Mccullough Dam is part of that. In fact, there's a whole dam construction program including Pemba, Quelimane, and Nampula. National dam construction programs, where the country is actually on a drive for dam construction, is Nigeria, for example. And then there's several other dam projects, individual dam projects like Biampwe River Dam in Malawi, Kidunda Dam in Tanzania. Next trend is very much this bulk water carrier initiatives, some of them very, very ambitious. You know about the Botswana one, where they're talking about the Zambezi Integrated Agricultural Community Development Program of bringing water from the north to the south, to the dry south of Botswana. And the Botswana are very keen on moving that along. Kafui Bulk Water Supply Program. I met with Lusaka Water Company there. We have quite a detailed outline of this project, which you can access. That's being driven by the Lusaka Water Company, as I say. Lusaka is really growing so fast that they have to address the matter quite urgently to get water going. By the way, I didn't mention it here, but Zimbabwe as well. There's, although it's in, there are a lot of pipeline projects in the pipeline in Zimbabwe because of the situation there. But nevertheless, you have to just, for both Bulawayo and Harare, there are already whole project outlines for development there on supplying those places. Lake Chad water carrier project is, Lake Chad is a tragedy. It's shrinking by the day. And the idea is to bring water from, I'm just mentioning this to show you how ambitious some of these projects are, is to bring water from the Central African Republic and feed it into Lake Chad. From the river, I forget the name of the river in Central African Republic, but that's a very ambitious plan that I thought they needed to mention it. Donor support projects, it's that kind of thing where you need some kind of injection. It's not going to stand on its own without some kind of government stroke donor support and so on. The donors are very involved in the water sector. It's an essential requirement. So the PEPAM program I spoke about, there's multiple donors. As I said, it's about every donor you could think of is involved in that. With African Development really being the lead donor in that, but the World Bank's in and everybody. Mccullough Dam in Lesotho is the Millennium Challenge Corporation. That is one institution that maybe you want to talk about a little bit, Rudolph, as well. Yeah, that is a very important institution. National Potable Water Program in DRC, which is World Bank funded. Potable, but then there's also other programs ancillary to this, like the Potable Water Tariffication Program in Cameroon, which is World Bank funded. There's no shortage of projects in the water and sanitation sector. I can throw thousands of them at you. I've just given you here a couple of them. There's the Dar es Salaam Water Program, Zanzibar Urban Super, all these projects that are, well, and there's extras like the Lower Sutu smallholder irrigation project. Irrigation projects are also in the sector. There are major city developments being planned. There are, for example, if you've seen the Port Harcourt city revival, Lagos is being done. Many of you have been involved with the Lekki development in Lagos. And obviously water is an integral part of all this. There's also in Kinshasa, Cité du Fleuve, which is another major city development program. There are a couple of them going. Namibia's got big plans for Windhoek as well, in Freedom Square, to do much more there and to develop it. Where that parking lot is opposite the Kalahari Sands, they want to do quite a lot there. We're coming across more and more these mixed sector, what do you call them? Where there'll be hotels, hospitals, mixed sector, multiple sector developments, urban developments. It's becoming quite a trend now, and I can see there'll be more of that sort of thing in the future.
The World Bank doesn't go in there and just in isolation say we want to support this project. They look at what the other donors do, they often collaborate, and their country assistance strategy look very closely at the domestic agenda, policies and that sort of thing. So when you read that document, you have a fair idea. And you'll see as I go through the countries, I refer to the CAS on a number of occasions. So this comment is applicable to all of those, or all the future countries. The two important things that I picked up from the country assistance strategy is Angola is a special market because of its high oil revenue. It can draw in a lot of non-concessional finance from the non-traditional donors, but that are increasingly obviously important, i.e. Brazil, India, China, and these guys. And the World Bank's objectives include rebuilding of infrastructure. They would like to construct 240 kilometers of water supply networks and about 72,000 domestic house connections. That, of course, is just for this project. What you often find is they co-fund these things, and you'll find similar figures for other projects from the other donors. They produce a monthly operational survey on their website, and in that they also present project opportunities. And in the most recent one, that is for April, they came up with a couple of interesting projects there. Angola, by the way, is rapidly meeting or moving towards a middle-income country, and they'll probably at some point in future review that. And then they'll get through the middle-income country window, which is called IBRD, the International Bank for Reconstruction and Development. In Angola, there's a major credit there for it, and the consulting services and the implementing agency or agencies are yet to be determined. So this is a heads up where the World Bank credits, there will be some money spent there. What I've also picked up from the website in this regard is that they've given the task team leader, or they also sometimes refer to them as the bank team lead. There's contact details for that person there. They don't always do it, but there's also spots on the World Bank website where they actually list the people who have successfully procured into these projects. And I know for some of you that is of interest, because it gives you an idea of who your private sector counterparts are, who your opposition is, and who maybe you can contact if you want to collaborate with them. But the AFDB is a little bit more sparse on the information that they share. The World Bank is really the leader in that. They give, not always, it's very erratic, but they, like with some of the previous pages, they'll give you all the information, fax, email, where they are, and that sort of thing. The main thing about the DRC is the World Bank wants to make a difference in terms of the fact that they are a fragile, what they call a fragile post-conflict country. And their country assistance strategy covers 5 objectives, and it includes improve access to social services and reduce vulnerability. So obviously the classic stuff of water and sanitation and that sort of thing is covered in it. Zambia's assistance strategy with Zambia is a little bit more isolated. They've had democracy for a while, and it's a little bit more of a stable administration compared to, say, the DRC. So you'll find there's a lot more projects, a lot more targeted. And again, don't assume that if they target energy project at water and sanitation and that sort of thing, or housing doesn't come into it. And the big challenge there is despite the decade of democracy, a lot of Zambians still live in poverty. So the World Bank programs try and make a difference to that. That is the essence of the assistance strategy to Zambia. FIPAC, for you water and sanitation bugs will know that it's a very important agency in Mozambique, and there's the contact details of a credit that they've extended to FIPAC for a water and sanitation project. There's actually 2, one for 30 million and one for 50 million. In terms of Tanzania, it is staggering that since '95, the World Bank has provided more than 5.5 billion US dollars into that market. The important thing to understand about the Millennium Challenge Corporation, if you can turn your page to that, is that they have looked at the problems that many classical donors experience. And the first thing they said is, what we're going to do is it's going to be a grant. It's not going to be a loan, because of all the conditionalities to loans and the negative press that they get out of that. So they give a grant. Then what they do is they ask the countries what they need, and they genuinely ask them. And what they do is they appoint people who then translate that into what they call a compact. So it tends to be large scale and complex compacts that they sign with different countries. But it's the only agency that I know that has one method of procurement, international competitive bidding, and everyone has an equal chance. They don't give American companies or anyone they don't do anyone any favors, and a lot of our firms have successfully done business with these guys. By the way, they have a very good website. So they open an office in the country, and all the contact details, including the procurement people, are listed on that website, so it's relatively easy to get access to them. Over the last 7 or 8 years, I've taken quite a few delegations to both the World Bank and the African Development Bank, and as earlier stated, this platform is at least in part to improve your understanding of the role of these development finance institutions and to increase your interest in projects that they fund. The most important thing that you have to realize while we have our colleagues in the room today, the clients of the World Bank is the implementing agents. And you have to talk to the implementing agents. And your commercial and your business relationship is with them. The bank has an influence in the whole process, but they don't appoint you, they don't help you to get the job. You have to talk to the implementing agent, to the electricity utility companies and other government departments who are involved in energy. Angola has a GDP of $100 billion, which is roughly a third of South Africa's GDP. And compared to most of the other southern and eastern African countries, it's really from a GDP point of view a big economy. That also means because of its oil resources that they are able to draw non-concessional financial resources from non-OECD countries, which is code word for China and India. We know that Angola is one of the most difficult countries to work in, and that is not an understatement. You know, it must be one of the most difficult markets to function in. The World Bank's activities in Angola have a strong focus on water and sanitation, and at the moment they don't have any separate energy projects listed. The INGA project is always somehow linked in some kind of controversy, but it's literally a project that can change the economic fortunes of a big part of Southern Africa if that indeed is successful. I've just did a small extract from a procurement notice for you to get a feel for the kind of information and the kind of projects that they list in the procurement notices that are published on the website. And there you will see there are 4 lots. One project, lot number 1, is for a reinforcement of a network, and the others is for supply installation of substations. And it tells you the procurement method, pre-qualification, and expected bid opening date. And this is, as you can see, still in the future. So if you're into the business of supplying into this kind of project, then it would definitely be worth your while to have a look at that part of the website. Another opportunity for the upgrade of the power transfer capacity in Zambia, and there you will see the details, and obviously the implementing agent there is ZESCO, and they should be contacted if you're interested in that. Page 14, I just shared some of the contact details that I gleaned from the World Bank website, and also a director responsible for power rehabilitation and generation at ZESCO, should you want to follow up on that. We're dealing with Mozambique now, and there you will see that the country assistance strategy is focused again on equitable access to key services. Similar to the case in DRC, there's a lot of emphasis in the World Bank and these guys to facilitate access to these things. You will see there that I've mentioned that the bank approved an energy development and improved access project for Mozambique in February 2010. The bid pad and procurement notices are available on the website, and in the case of I've seen no less than 4 procurement notices that lists, similar to the earlier slide that I showed you, procurement opportunities for consulting engineers, for contractors and goods suppliers. The value of this project approved in February 2010 is $18 million US dollars, and it will last until 2015. The important implementing agents there are Eletricidade de Mozambique, and also the Ministry of Energy and the Rural Electrification Agency. I have listed on slide number 17 a development of the transmission backbone linking the Tet province with the south of Mozambique. Paul mentioned earlier on that there are many opportunities in the Tet province with the mining development there, and obviously this project is linked to that. Again, you have the contact details of the implementing agent there. The important thing about Tanzania is that it has major engagement with donor entities, including the World Bank. You will see some figures there. And they have recently, according to the World Bank website, adopted a comprehensive regulatory framework supporting small renewable energy projects. Tanzania has abundant but largely untapped renewable energy resources. So while it might take some time to filter down to your level, I think it's something that you should take note of. You will see that there are projects amounting to $630 million US, and the biggest part in slide or bullet point number 2 is for a backbone transmission project worth around $450 million. Many of the energy projects in Africa are regional projects. So you can't necessarily go to individual countries and implementing agents. You have to look at gaining your relationships with implementing agents, looking at the regional context as well. Now there on slide 21 you will see that we have what they call the Nile Equatorial Lakes Subsidiary Action Program, a long name for basically saying that they intend building a dam, a hydropower plant, and transmission lines that will involve 3 countries, Rwanda, Burundi, and Tanzania. Consultants will be required for that, and some meetings will take in the preparatory phase will take place in December this year, and you have the contact details of all the different implementing agents that will be involved in this project. I have just picked up a couple of other opportunities that came out of the monthly operational survey. For example, on slide 25 we have a power system development opportunity. While the implementing agent in this case was not listed, if you continue monitoring the monthly operational survey, you will see the work that will come out of that. Slide 26, Madagascar. I thought that would be an interesting one for you to take note of, because we're looking at high voltage interconnections, or the investing in the interconnections in the main loading centers. They're looking at a large scale hydro facility, and there will also be technical assistance required in this. So the consulting engineers can take note of that. They gave us a heads up about the large cities support program. This is slide 28. Domestically, keep an eye open for this development, because they are looking at a US$1 billion credit which will be channeled through our national treasury to 8 large cities in South Africa, and you can have the details in that.
Firstly, let's go to the Botswana one, Mamabula. Now, the Mamabula project you're probably quite familiar with, most of you. The project has lost some impetus because it's been divided, and there's a lot of talk now that's going on as to what, and they've divided. The project basically consists of coal for power, local power generation into the Eskom grid, and then export of coking coal and high quality coal via the very ambitious Trans-Kalahari rail line, which, by the way, we discussed at Rail Africa last week, and most people were convinced that that project will not see the light of day for a long time. It's too ambitious and it's too expensive. Between $1 and $2 million per kilometre of rail line. The DRC government sort of like hived away from the Westcore group, and it announced recently that the 4,000 megawatt Inga 3 plant will begin generating power by 2017-2018. Well, you know, we've been waiting for this project for so long now that, but I have to report when these declarations are made. You have to see them, but whether it's going to see light of day and when and how is waits to be seen. In Côte d'Ivoire, there's a biogas project there, as you can see, pertaining to the urban areas. We're waiting for Côte d'Ivoire to pick up again now that its political problem is hopefully passed, and that we can get going, because it's a very important country within the West African context. I'll leave out Eritrea there. Ethiopia, one of the most underestimated markets in the whole continent. I don't understand why there's this reticence on Ethiopia. Ethiopia has a massive hydropower program, and coupled to that is a massive roads program. Mini hydros, by the way, as in Malawi, as in Zambia, it's the one trend that I'm picking up big time. Mini hydro programs, big trend. And those of you who specialize in mini hydros, you should be, it's like Christmas for you now. So it should, well, nothing's as good as that, but you know what I mean? There's a lot, I'm picking up a lot at the moment. I've got a couple of clients on my books, including an Australian company, Tasman Hydro, that's done a lot of work on mini hydros in Indonesia, and is now transferring its knowledge into Africa. They've already done an agreement with Oricon on some of this work and so on. So there's an example of initiative taken where they realized the mini hydro potential. So now the Mccullough Project, which we've got a couple of people involved with that project sitting in this room. So in Mali on page 8 is an interesting project from my point of view, because I'm always calling for South Africans to form consortia. There are so many South Africans involved in this consortium that maybe it's actually going to increase the cost, but nevertheless, it's gratifying to see that. And a couple of you guys in this room involved in that project, like Zulch, your company, and so on. So maybe you want to update us, because I believe there's some staff that's going to be sent to Mali quite soon to further the project. And although it's it's got components, different components to it, agriculture, and then of course the ethanol plant to generate a modest amount of power, nevertheless include it in power, because we're covering all things around power. Namibia is going to be one of the world's major uranium producers, as you know, in the Swakopmund area. That's why the desal plants are developing, a second big desal plant going up. So the local enrichment of the country's uranium resources equals nuclear power, and so watch that space. The French are obviously very experienced in nuclear power, and people like Arriva are sniffing around the place quite a lot. And Orange River hydropower program there. The desperation for power in the bottom page 10 in that Walvis Bay, Swakopmund area has led to diesel plants, which is a very expensive way of generating power. But there's such an urgent need, because you're sitting in a very barren part of the world, and you've got this major resource. So the emphasis is on trying to get the power installed. When I was in Tanzania, there have been major gas discoveries in Tanzania. So the future, to a large extent, is hydro and even coal, because the power generation in Tanzania is quite diversified. They talk about coal, they talk about hydropower, but gas, it just doesn't make sense. At the moment, my stringers in Tanzania are reporting really bad power outages in Dar es Salaam. At the moment, they are experiencing really, really bad power outages. Now, this doesn't make sense, because the Songa gas project, I know there are faults in the project. I know there's insufficient gas feed into the plant in Dar es Salaam, and that's blamed on various actually donor institutions in the past. That's what they say in the street. That's the street talk, that they were underspecified, especially the pipeline. Now there's talk of a second pipeline to feed through to that plant. But in the south of Tanzania is the Ruvuma Basin gas discovery. 80% of the gas would appear to be in Tanzanian waters, right there where Mtwara is. So that means that the whole Mtwara scenario has changed now. There is a lot of, to excuse the pun, it's now really cooking with gas. Now things could really happen. So I don't think those pessimists who say, Tanzania is slow and it's been sitting around. I believe there's so much impetus now behind what's going on there that something has to break through now. Bujagali Dam project was very controversial, was held back for a long time in Uganda, was held back for environmental reasons. And those of you environmental consulting, or those of you consulting engineers with environmental consulting capacity, you should be creaming it now, because there's just so much emphasis on that right now. And the donors, as our donor friends will tell you just now, are the categorization of projects under environment impact is a non-negotiable. If they're categorized 1 or 2, something has to happen. So A or B, or they use different categories, but you know that categorization. And maybe it's something that consulting engineers which have environmental capacity, that's a Trojan horse into the project. How do you do an EIA if you don't know the project early and you don't have the entirety of the project that's to be known at that time? Otherwise you can't do the EIA. So therefore we should be palling up with people that are early in the project food chain, like the EIAs.